I wish I was talking about Mighty Mercury, but I'm actually talking about Mighty Ugly. What up, what up, what up? Welcome back to the PHNX Mercury podcast. I am your host, Erika Lee Day. I'm joined by my PG1, QB1, on and off the court, on and off the field, in and out of the studio, in and out of all the places, Stephen Pridgeon-Garner. Stephen, how you doing on this fine Friday evening?
I want to just get to one where it burns now, honestly.
Okay.
But doing all right. Doing all right. Was definitely expecting more from this game, especially stemming from Wednesday's loss to start the second half of the season. Only the second time the team has lost back-to-back games all season long. Does it go to 3? That remains to be seen, but...
Isn't this the third? Because didn't they lose the last game before All-Star?
Technically, yeah. Yeah. So it's 3 in a row. So first time all season where they've
They're
lost
going
more
streaking
than 2
the
in a
wrong
row.
way.
Yeah. So these are uncharted waters, but again, for a team that's been tested and challenged in multiple ways this season, I don't expect for it to last too long. But they definitely have to sharpen up and clean up multiple things before they can get back to the winning space that they were in. So you'll see how I feel with our one-word burns, but that's what I am right now. How about you?
I'm not too bad.
I almost said it like 3 times, but I left it.
No, we're going to get to it quick so that way we can get
That's
out.
a tough word to just work into a sentence too, Steven. It's not easy to just work
Not when you're influenced and motivated to use it. I will say that.
Well, if you're new here, welcome to the PHNX Mercury podcast. If you're not new here, welcome back to the PHNX Mercury podcast. You already know we got our guy Kevin Thomas behind Mac pushing the X's and O's for us tonight. Shout out to our guy Kevin. He tried to ditch us, but then he came back just begging to come back to produce our pod. He needed to produce the Mercury pod. And unfortunately, he probably wishes it was the other way around because the other game ended first. But
they tried to make me talk baseball, guys. I'm not a baseball guy.
I just know the next time you go on the D-back show, though, there's going to be a finish to the last time you were on the D-back show. So, I will be patiently waiting for that day. I'm honest, if I'm honest. But nonetheless, Kevo, I do think we should just go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off with the one-word burns. Obviously, Phoenix took the loss to the New York Liberty tonight. It was a close game until halftime, and then halftime happened, and it just went downhill from there.
Yeah.
And so I think we should just rip the Band-Aid off with these one-word burns. Steven, you want to go ahead with your word?
Yeah, vexing. I was vexed. All of that. Just very frustrated, confused, annoyed. All of those things kind of wrapped in one. This was a very winnable game for the Mercury, especially when we emphasized setting the tone and what they did in that first quarter. About 6 or 7 stops in a row to start the game, 8-0 to the first time out. Seemed like they were on one of those kind of moments to start a game where they were taking everything that was that 2-game losing streak that we talked about coming into tonight and were on a mission to get back on the right side of the win column. And then they kind of lost the discipline. New York started playing better, want to start there. Phoenix's discipline slipped, and we ultimately see the result that we did. A game that had no lead changes and 4 ties in the first half. Quickly went south, and they were down double digits about late in the third quarter.
Yeah, and I chose the word bleak because, frankly, it was bleak. It felt hopeful in the first half, and then suddenly I felt like we were back in the dark days of last season, where it was just like, who is this team that I'm watching play basketball out there? And so, yeah, it was definitely a not fun game to watch. And the first half, to your credit, I mean, they started out hot, 8-0. I was like, dang, like this team ain't playing around today. They came out with intention. I mean, I saw those videos of them shooting the half-court shots in warm-ups today, and I was like, oh, Mercury by a gazillion points, man. And then when halftime hit, they came out, and the Liberty made adjustments, and the Mercury made the wrong ones.
Yeah. Kevo, what was your word for today's game?
Parlay.
Understandable.
My guy Kevo
Very
is
understandable.
mad. Kevin, would you like to tell the people why you're mad?
Yeah, because I did our bets for Bet365 today. Shout out to Bet365. Use code PHNX365. Get your $150 in free bonus bets. But if you did tail my parlay, we held the line up until the very last second of this game. We needed Alyssa Thomas to have 7+ rebounds. Smashed that. We needed Alyssa Thomas to have 15+ points. Obliterated that. And then we needed Sammy Whitcomb 2+ made threes, which is something she's done. 5 out of 5 games recently or something crazy. Hasn't gone 1 for 7 in like months up until tonight when she went 1 for 7 and completely messed up my parlay. But it is okay because Sammy Whitcomb is still a good basketball player. So I'm not too mad at Sammy Whitcomb, but I am mad that her shots didn't fall.
Yeah, it was definitely a tough sight to see. Honestly, that was what made it toughest. Is I knew Kevin was just so sad about that second made 3 that just didn't come, and we incited so much confidence into him, and we let him down a little bit. But
well, actually, now that we're on the topic, in fact,
to your point though,
you said when I said she had 1 made 3, she was 1 for 3 at the time.
That was in the first quarter.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what did you say? You said
there's entirely too much time left in the game. She's going to take multiple, which means that she's going to make at least one more. And for the first time in quite some time regarding Sammy, boy, was I wrong. That was a tough one. Obviously, you want to credit New York for that, but to Kevin's point and why his bet made sense, the last, 11 games, Sammy was knocking down 3.4 of 11 or 7.5 attempts a game. So as far as betting goes, if you're betting on streaks and you're betting on players that are kind of playing to a certain level, you're betting on an all-time great at a specific skill, that felt like a layup, honestly.
It really did.
So my apologies to you. I imagine Sammy will make up for that and then some, if not in the next game, in the not too distant future.
It's all good in my book with Sammy Whitcomb.
Well,
elite shooter.
Someone that didn't screw over Kevin's parlay.
Yes.
Alyssa Thomas. Let's talk about it. I feel like today was one of the first times all season where I felt like she was getting that proper just respect from the general population of not just Mercury people, but also I heard that the New York broadcasters were talking her up the entirety of the game, talking about what an MVP candidate she has been all season. And then to watch her do what she did and nearly get a triple-double, 20 points, 13 rebounds and 9 assists, I believe. That's off my dome. Here comes the graphic that Kevin made with 2 steals. Oh, it was close. Only 8 assists, but still right there on that triple-double line. So, yeah, she just continues to be everywhere and do everything for the Phoenix Mercury. And every time the Mercury were going to get close, it was due to what Alyssa Thomas was able to get done for them on the floor. So, yeah, definitely just another impressive game from AT, and definitely not the last. We're going to continue to see these types of games from her as we continue to get closer to the end of the season.
Yeah, V12, V14, whatever engine you want to look at that's stronger than either of those two that are Hemi. Like, there's a lot of options out there that's past my car knowledge, but I know that V12s and V14s for cars and some bigger trucks are relevant, and the Hemi as well. AT is all of that and then some. They just needed more from elsewhere outside of her in today's game, because you don't beat the New York Liberty, especially in New York, with just one player. You often don't even beat them with only 2 players. AT, I felt like she brought what she needed to the table. There was some slippage on defense. Even on her part, it's like very uncharacteristic. So again, not something to worry about, but if we're speaking specifically to today's game, everybody had room that they could be better with, including the coaching staff. So yeah, this was a tough one. They lost it off of execution more than anything else, but doesn't take away from Alyssa Thomas being a bona fide MVP candidate, which copy paste for each of the last 5, 6, 7 seasons in a row now. That's just who she is at this point. And for my money, she's been the MVP this season so far.
Yeah, I feel like this has finally been the time where she's starting to get the respect she deserves, and that's thankful, I guess. I guess we've done a good job of spreading the good gospel at this point, but yeah, I do want to talk about the coaching staff. I know you were sitting in with Nate Tibbetts in his post-game and pregame presser, and so I guess I want to hear did he talk about the game plan before the game, and did they execute properly? And then what was kind of said in the post game?
Well, I'll just go with post game in particular. He spoke to lack of execution because they started off the game the way that they did, and then you get to the latter end of Q2, just before halftime, and the the Liberty going a double-digit run that gets the game back to even at 46. And at that point, that's where they take that momentum from that latter end of the second quarter, and then they just find ways to bridge the gap going through the second half. In a game that the Mercury, like I said, set the tone in ways in which we said they needed to after their most recent loss on Wednesday. They lost that momentum, and then they had to play catch-up after that. And when you're trying to play catch-up against this Liberty team, no different than when you're trying to play catch-up against the Mercury themselves. It's often hard, and you apply that also to them being at home. Sabrina Ionescu doing everything that she was, both off the dribble and from deep. That's tough.
Well, and the Mercury were able to put up 27 points in that first quarter, but then after that, every single quarter, they were not able to finish with 20 points, which we talked about this at length last year because it was a consistent issue, but it really hasn't been a problem for the Mercury so far this year. They've definitely given up more, or like a consistent amount of 20-plus point quarters, but they have consistently outscored their opponents. So it's not been a huge, issue that they have given up as many points as they have. But tonight, they were just not able to, especially in the second half, they were not able to get points in the way they normally would. And like kind of to our previous points about Sammy, and then honestly, Kit, Satou we'll get to in a few minutes. But, the normal help that Alyssa Thomas has had was just not there tonight. And so it was one of the only games so far this season where the depth problem that people talked about at the beginning of the season felt like a real issue. I don't think I don't think this is going to be an issue we're talking about in 3 weeks, a month, come September, but it did feel like an issue today, which stinks considering this was the first game all season with the whole team actually injury-free.
Yeah, well, we almost got there.
Well, but at least it's just an illness. It's not,
But she wasn't available.
Yeah, and that's true.
And, I mean, needless to say, if you've been rocking with us, you know how important Kathryn Westbeld is, whether you're a box score watcher, a game watcher, or both. She's been a starting five, and honestly in a moment where she wasn't expected to be, but the fact that she played so well, by the time Natasha Mack came back, they didn't want to change anything that was already working so well to help them be one of the 3 best teams in the league so far all season long. Obviously, she gets to start, and then we get to tip off, and then she's not there. And we get a message from Mercury PR just letting us know that it was just illness. So we didn't get an official update just because they felt like at any point she could come back. Obviously, she didn't. So we hope she's okay, but she was out because of illness, no injury or anything like that was sustained in like pregame warmups or anything like that. So I imagine Kat Westbeld is back for Sunday's game, but I don't want to preemptively speak too soon. I'm not sure what illness it is, but she missed today's game because of that. So not having her definitely shifts things for them because now you have to, especially against this Liberty team, you need more versatile pieces in your front court because of the front court pieces that they have. They pretty much only run Brianna Stewart and Jonquel Jones at the 5. So, you don't want to be at an athleticism disadvantage trying to upsize because that puts you in compromises the defense. So not having Kat Westbeld to pivot to definitely hurt them some. And I think that second quarter stretch where they gave up 7 offensive rebounds to the New York Liberty, and it felt like they scored on 6 or all 7 of those.
Yeah.
That's a tough pill to swallow when you played so well in the first quarter and really didn't give up any of those. They go and get 7, go on a double-digit run, and that's how they bridge that gap to get back to even at halftime. And then they pretty much rode that momentum throughout the rest of the game.
And I want to get into by the numbers here in just a second, but I want to ask you because I want to say this is Kalani's first DNP of the season, which to me it was I felt like at some point they could have used her maybe specifically in that second quarter to hopefully try to prohibit some of those offensive rebounds. And obviously you can't go back in time and change those decisions, but any thoughts on that in particular?
Well, Nate talked about that in postgame, and he said more than anything, it was them trying to go with a little bit more skill, a little bit more versatility because of the demands that New York puts on the defense in the front court in particular. And to your points, This was Kalani's first DNP of the season. So understandable considering the matchup.
Yeah.
But obviously, if you look at it after the game happened and you see one of the biggest issues was second chance points and second chance rebound or offensive rebounds conceded, that's obviously something that Kalani helps to put a stopgap on, but also helps you with in turn on your end of the floor. So there's give and take there. I'm not mad at the decision to not have Kalani play only because you understand how you have to defend New York.
Oh, for sure.
And it's tough if you can't get to certain spots.
Yeah.
But I understand the other side of it tonight because in the second half they were slow with all of the rotations they made defensively. So,
it was like didn't matter either way, right?
Yeah. Yeah. As some people say, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Especially if Sabrina's playing that well, it's like, and then Jonquel's knocking down shots like that too. It gets tough. So this is what the New York Liberty do to you. You talk yourself into tongue twisters and just got to roll the dice at some point and just kind of rock with what you feel like is best for your team. It's never a good choice. And there's not going to be a better choice going forward because they didn't have Emma Mieseman or Niara Sabally in today's game. So
we were talking about this on the DLS Wings pod. Remember last year the league was investigating Las Vegas Aces?
Yeah.
I'm going to need an investigation to crack down here shortly because, excuse me?
Yeah, what people were lined up, they already had the drafts ready to say the same thing about the Mercury if they were able to get their hands on Emma Mieseman. So whoever got her
feel
was
differently
about
that, but come on now.
Of course we would, but everybody else would be like, okay, how is this happening? How is the money working? Yeah. People were ready, and I
can connect the dots. You know what I'm saying?
They just shifted the aim from the Mercury to the Liberty.
That was a sweepstakes. I do feel like we missed out on. I don't appreciate that.
And honestly, Nate said the same thing. He said as much.
He sounded real upset about it too.
Yeah, he said as much in pregame. He mentioning that they were one of 3 teams that were in on the final sweepstakes for her and ultimately lost out on her. And needless to say, her talent speaks for itself. But that wasn't even available for them today. Neither was the other center that they play outside of Jonquel and Brianna Stewart and Niara Sabally.
Yep.
I imagine if Niara was available, they probably pressed the Kalani Brown button just for matchup purposes. Yeah. But once you see that Niara's not available and she was deemed out yesterday, so they knew coming in rotation-wise, you see the limbo. It's a lot of give and take and a lot of trying to just figure out what works best. So,
and then I do want to talk about one other thing before we get to the bottom numbers. Kitija Laksa. I've seen a lot of people talk about it on the timeline, and then I actually saw you answer a question about it during the game today. And so I want to give you a chance to talk about it in front of our beloved viewers as well. Kit has definitely not played to her best, I would say, through the last 5 to 7 games. I can't say that I'm exact with those numbers, but that's what the eye test tells me. Mm-hmm. And I know you addressed kind of the rotationary piece of it on the timeline, but considering DeWanna Bonner has been added to the team, it does already put kind of a strain on the minutes rotation that existed before her arrival. But now with Kit's playing, how do you see the rotation kind of shaking out? Do you think it still remains situational? And I know Nate kind of addressed it in the post game, but I feel like it's also he knows he's the head coach. He needs to play it politically correct for his players to a certain level, I guess. Mm-hmm. So, but what do you think?
Just double checking right now. Last 7 games, I think Kit is 2, 4, 5, 6, about 6 for 28 from deep. So, that's not gonna get it done. For a Mercury team that, and I want to make sure we speak on this part too because I feel like there's a misconception about Phoenix being live by the 3, die by the 3 team. This is a team that beat the Minnesota Lynx and they made 1 3-pointer. And they also had one of their lower 3-point volume games. So this is not a team that wins by making and missing threes. You could say tonight's game, not solely, but partly was because they weren't able to hit the shots that they were able to generate. That's a conversation to be had, but it's not a team that's made and broken by threes. This is a team that's made and broken by their defense. When their defense is on, including on the defensive end is the periods you put on the sentence, grabbing rebounds. You do that, this game looks different. They lost their edge in the halfway point of the second quarter and throughout the rest of the game because of the slippage on defense, which led to New York's defense being set and then their offense having to consistently go against that. So there's a process there. And when they lose the process battle on that, that's when you kind of get these mixed bag results or these results that lead to double-digit losses like we saw tonight.
Yeah, and I want to answer Kazian Bradley. I'm sorry if I said your name wrong. I want to answer your comment. We don't play Ka and Makani enough. They're not going to gain chemistry and beat good teams or shake off the rust by trying to be smart with minutes. And I wish I could say you were correct, but unfortunately, we actually just talked about this on Wednesday. They play 8 games in 16 days. Like, there's a lot of games to be played within the next 3 weeks. And so when you look at it contextually, sure, you do want your best players on the floor as much as possible. And Ka is one of our, the best 5 on the Phoenix Mercury. And Monica Makani has proven to be an elite defender and a great shot maker when you need her the most. But that said, she's coming out of this concussion. Ka's coming off of an injury that has existed since last Olympics. I mean, we're talking about a year-long lingering issue. I personally don't want them to play Kahleah maximum amount of minutes. If that means they win tonight, but she's hurt again in another week, I'm all set. Miss me with a Thunderstick victory today. Like, I don't need to use my Thundersticks if that means Kahleah Copper is injured again. So I see what you're saying. I respect the game chemistry part. I do definitely hear you, but I think the minutes they're playing on the floor are meaningful enough to where they're definitely, mattering, and they're building up brain, chemistry with each other in particular, as well as everybody else on the floor. And when you have Kathryn Westbeld back, it's not going to matter as much. And so I just think, yeah, for sure. Again, you want your best 5 on the floor as much as possible, but the bench has proven to be really great for Phoenix. And so, obviously tonight wasn't their night in particular, but I mean, they still beat out the Liberty in terms of bench points. Last time I looked, it was 18-11. I that could have changed from till the end of the game.
That's it.
But
18-11. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, the bench still outscored the Liberties. I'm still not pressed about who the Mercury have signed to their roster. I definitely I hear what you're saying about them not playing enough minutes together at this point. I think there's a rebuttal and context here that matters quite a bit.
I just want to stat correct myself for full transparency. 3 for 25 over the last 7 games for Kitija Laksa. So I think I said 3 or 4 for 28. So
6
I was
for
a little
26.
6 for, yeah. Okay, so it's 3 for 20, 3 for 25. So yeah, she has to be better taking and making the shots that they are generating. Back to the topic though, this is a little bit of why it's good. It's always great to win games, but when you have so many injuries, you start to get into a little bit of a rhythm with the faction of the team that is available. And then when you have to reintegrate not just one key piece like Ka, but Satou missed multiple games going into All-Star break as well. So you're reintegrating 2 key pieces.
Plus still trying to integrate DB for the first time, so.
Yes. So Dawana comes into the team. It's a different context because no Satou, no Kahleah. Her usage is different. The matchups are different. The lineups are different. The entire flow of the game in terms of plays being ran and whatnot, everything's just different. There's another factory reset that takes place now because they get out of the All-Star break, and guess who's not available for them? Their point guard, Monica Makani. So now you get her back in addition to everybody else coming back. So you see what I'm getting at? This is not making excuses. It's just explaining why some things might not necessarily be as sharp as they typically are. Lineups are not necessarily what they usually are. They're trying to collect data in terms of what certain lineups look like against certain teams, especially a team like New York. There's just a lot of learning going on, and they had their chances to win this game. Like I don't want to bury the lead. This is an opportunity that they just lost the grip on over the course of the game. You want to credit New York for that, but there's a lot of learning going on with this Mercury team that teams like New York that won a championship with their core together last season and added a couple of new pieces on the margins just don't have the same type of issue.
Yeah. You want to do the by the numbers or Satou before we get to the ad break, Steven?
We can do Satou.
Okay, let's talk about it. Satou Sabally, who through the first 20 games of the season was definitely one of the Mercury's most important players. When she was firing, everything worked for the Mercury. Yep. She was arguably one of the most important spacing pieces. Obviously, AT is the engine and makes everything go round, but Satou hitting her shots made AT's job a gazillion and a half times easier. So Satou had one of her toughest games of the season tonight. So Kevin, if you want to bring up that graphic for us, she was 3 for 13 from the field, 3 assists, 5 rebounds, 0 for 6 from 3 with a total of 6 points at the end of the game. Definitely hate to see it against a team like the Liberty. To your previous points, like you're not going to beat a team as good as the Liberty, especially with JJ back and everything else that they have going on in New York with one of your 3 best players scoring 6 points. It's just it makes beating that team a lot harder. And then in tandem with Sammy struggling and Kit struggling from 3, it makes the spacing piece of it extremely, extremely difficult. And so then, they're able to run Sammy off the line a lot easier. They're able to run Satou off the line a lot easier just because they know that she's not making her shots anyway. So she's kind of fearful of taking them in the first place. So confidence is definitely like a big piece of this. But what was your take on Satou Sabally tonight?
So Wednesday, 13 points on 10 shots from the field for Satou. She was 3 for 7 from 3. Low number in rebounds and low number in free throw attempts. And I mentioned the rebounds and the free throw attempts part with Satou because she's been elite at both of those particular points for this Mercury team when this Mercury team has been at their best. So I think no different than for role players, for each of their big 3, and more so Alyssa and Satou because they've been more available than Kahleah so far this season. But there's specific things that AT and Satou, when the team is at their best, both of those players are really, really good at. For AT, shocker, it's literally everything. Offense, defense, rebounds, points, assists, steals, all like literally everything. And that's to her typical nature. That's what she does. For Satou, specific to her role as a big 3 piece for this Mercury team, it's been the rebounds. She's been arguably the best rebounder on the team comprehensively this season. Very consistent there, chipping in on the defensive glass in particular, getting into those grab-and-go scenarios. And then the other big thing, like I mentioned also, is getting to the free throw line. I can't say I remember too many post-ups for Satou Sabally in this one. And as I check my notes, just to double check, New York started this game with Breanna Stewart on Satou. So some of it might be because of that matchup, but there was also a lot of Natasha Cloud guarding Satou Sabally, whether it was outright or after a switch took place. This is what I'm kind of getting to. Her role shifting just a little bit in terms of the rhythm. If you want to try to get more touches for Kahleah, Satou is not getting the same volume of touches that she was early in the season when she was top 7, top 8 in the MVP race, one of the best players in the W. All of this stuff is kind of shifting around. Her rhythm's not going to be the same because of that. So she has to find a new way to kind of get involved in the game. Yeah. It's just a lot of, like I said, learning, a lot of unlearning and relearning with the team going on right now. But never a bad thing to get your team back healthy. I think these are just kind of the relearning steps for them. Obviously, it doesn't help schedule-wise when you're going up against 2 of the 3 best teams in the league out the break, or 2 of the 4 best teams in Atlanta and then New York on the road. But generally speaking, Satou has to be better. I think she understands that. She knows that. There's certainly grace to be given coming back from an injury that lasted multiple weeks. So there's that part of the context as well. But she understands that she has to play to a certain level for the team to be its best self. And I think it starts before anything else with what do her free throw numbers look like in terms of her aggression and also her aggression on the boards with rebounds.
Well, and then also, and I was going to talk about this earlier, but last I checked, so I could still be wrong about this, but it was 22-8 free throws, Liberty New York or Liberty Phoenix.
22-13 to finish the game.
Disgusting.
In terms of attempts.
And I'm sorry, but that's egregious.
That's relevant.
And,
it's relevant.
And I would gander that most of them, I was going to say, I would bet 6 of those 13 are AT, and look who it is. 6 of the 13 are Alyssa Thomas, which honestly, she probably should have all 13 of them, if I'm entirely honest with you. But nonetheless, I didn't think it was a super incredible whistle to start the game. I think they tried to even it out in the fourth quarter as they normally do again versus the Phoenix Mercury. That's my squad as always. But my God, man, the fouling is just painful to watch.
They shot 10 free throws in the first quarter.
The Mercury?
No, New York.
I was like, what?
New York shot 10 free throws in the first quarter.
Well, right. I was walking down to get my food, and I was like, they're going to get back in this game, because by the time I walked back in the door, it was 8-0, and I'm like, they're going to start going to the free throw line because they need to get back in the game, and here we go. And then as soon as I walk in the door, whistle, 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 whistle. I'm like, what in the world?
Now, I will say the Mercury can certainly be better with defending without fouling.
And they talked about it earlier this season, and they have not definitely. I don't think they've gotten very much better about it.
Now there's a I give them a slight some slight grace with the fouls because there's a learning curve that comes on a game-to-game basis, how refs are refereeing the game. And needless to say, officiating has not been consistent across the entire W for 10 years, 15 years, however long. I've been watching W basketball, but there it gets to a point where after the first quarter and a half, you should start to have an understanding of how referees are officiating the game. So accountability-wise, you have to transition from, why are y'all calling this? To, okay, now I've seen you call this multiple times. Now I have to adjust because you don't want to be leaving things in limbo to allow for officials to dictate or determine how a game is going to flow. You want to make sure you still back that control as a player and as a team. It didn't feel like they did it comprehensively after that first quarter. They didn't foul to the tune of 10 free throws for New York in one single quarter the rest of the way, but you got to be better in timely moments with that by learning as you go in the game.
Well, we're going to get to Holmes' comment and then the By the Numbers after this quick ad break here on the PHNX Mercury podcast. Did you guys know it's still double points over at the Mountain America Credit Union? Did you know that?
I did not know that. But that's good news.
Yeah, double the rewards, man. It's the best news I got all day, especially considering the Mercury lost, So Mountain America Credit Union is committed to helping their more than 1 million members at their 100 branches throughout the West. You can get 2 times the points on rewards credit card purchases throughout July 31st. That's literally in 6 days. So you don't have much time, but you can still get in on this. Use your Mountain America rewards card and watch the points pile up. It's perfect for gas, groceries, travel, home projects, Orange Tree, I'm looking at you, and all your other purchases. This promotion is an easy way to stretch your dollars since you earn twice as many rewards. Redeem your double points for rewards like travel rebates, gift cards, or event tickets. This is a limited time offer. Like I said, you only got 6 more freaking days. So you got to take advantage of it while you still can. Details at macu.com/double. Loans on approved credit offer can change or be withdrawn at any time. Limited time offer, terms and conditions apply. Steven, did you get in on this 40-cent gas day on Thursday?
I should have because my gas light just came on as I pulled up to the office today.
Oh my gosh, that's terrible.
I missed out on it.
Me too, Steven. Me too.
I'm going to have to add y'all to my Circle K group text because, every time I see that it's a fuel day, I probably send a 60 text messages
I
to
blame
make sure.
Max, though, honestly. If I'm really keeping it a buck, I blame Max.
He should be telling us.
It should have been no different than we have a schedule with all of the shows. We should also have something Circle K related that lets us know, hey, even if you don't need gas, go get gas today.
A Circle calendar, you
yeah,
know?
we need one of those for sure.
All right, I think I'm going to yell at Max to get on that.
I blame Max. Max blames us all the time. I blame him.
Mr. Simpson, if you're watching, get on that calendar movement. But you can join the Inner Circle just like us. You can get 25 cents off your first 5 fill-ups. You don't even have to be on the fuel day nonsense like us. We're on the fuel day nonsense. I'm on the fuel day train. Like, if I hear there's fuel day, I'm spreading the word like hot fire, okay? But so I'll spread the word to you guys too when that happens. Don't you worry. But until then, you can get 25 cents off your first 5 fill-ups. 3 cents off every gallon after that, and then you work your way up into the 5 cent off club like myself. I know Steven's in it. Kevin just got in it in like February because he's slow to the game, but it's okay. We forgive him for being a little slow.
It's okay. It's almost August.
Better late than never.
Yeah,
February's
but, like,
a little bit ago
you worked here
now.
since like last year.
Yeah, February. I had to work up to it. February's a little bit ago now. I've been in the class for a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
I got in that class real quick. I buy a lot of gas though, so I guess that's my fault. But you can join the Inner Circle just like us for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit circlek.com for details. By the Numbers. Presented to you by Desert Financial Credit Union and also Stephen Pridgeon-Garner because he's way better at math than I am, and I know he's ready for this nonsense just like I was, but Steven, you want to walk us through this by the numbers?
Yeah. 40% from the field. Start there. That's not going to be good enough on most nights against this New York Liberty team. You want to take the shots that you generate. You don't want to do too much and just, take the ones that you are able to create because their defense is good. But you have a certain level of shot making on your team that you want to be able to come into any game knowing that we're going to have at least this amount of efficiency on the shots that we do create. They weren't able to hit that mark tonight generally from the field or from the three-point line in particular. If you go to the bottom of the screen and you see that they shot 23.3%. And in terms of volume, they did get up almost as many attempts as New York. So it wasn't like they were outshot in terms of volume, but they just didn't knock down as many. New York knocked down 10 of theirs in tonight's game, shooting 32%. But just in all, a game where if you're not efficient with your shooting, if you're not efficient with your rebounding, if you're not efficient taking care of the ball, and you're also being outshot from the free throw line, like your avenues, like the margin for error against the New York Liberty is already slim coming into the game, whether they're healthy or they're close to healthy. You can't have any of those not go in your favor and still expect to win, especially on the road against them. That's tough.
We got to take a second for this Holmes comment. I actually forgot because I promised you we would come back to you after the break, and now here we are, and I did not come back to you, and that's my bad. We got to start with this. One of the only good things about the game was that the New York announcer this time around, they put some respect on AT, most respect that has been put on AT all season, and it wasn't even a homer like myself hyping her up. I feel like that's a good sign though, right?
About time.
You're right. I guess I shouldn't be that excited.
We're only
you're
2.5 months into the season. Like, it's about time. Like, I'm glad y'all finally are acknowledging that there are players outside of the New York market that are playing great basketball this season. Like, about time. They don't get cookies for doing your job. You finally did it. Like, I'm glad you got around to it, but you're a little late now. Like, it took 2 losses to the Phoenix Mercury for you to start acknowledging that Alyssa Thomas is who she is. And that's no worse than a top 3 player in this
and one
league.
of the best first halves of the season.
Like, what we doing right now? She was coming off of going into All-Star break, a player of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Like, about time. You don't get cookies for doing it late.
At least you could buy her jersey at the All-Star game, right?
I got some bad news for you, brother.
Wow.
Terrible news for you, actually.
Don't worry, I ranted for like 10 minutes on the Wings podcast about AT. So, I'm spreading the gospel there too.
Silly.
You know what I mean?
It's silly. No way should people just now be coming around to Alyssa being in the MVP conversation.
The other comment from Holmes I want to talk about, Mac, AT, Ka, and Mo were the best 2 players on the floor tonight, and they were on the bench together at the same time. How does that happen, and why? Steven?
The Mercury got a lot of good players. You can start there. Players obviously have to rest. You also have a big 3 construct, so if all 4 of those players aren't on the court, that means that Sammy Wickham, Kahleah Copper, and Satou Sabally are on the court in some rendition of 5 players. That's not a bad lineup, regardless of whoever else is on the court, if those 3 are on the floor. And you add to that, DeWanna Bonner is likely on the floor with that group too. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of lineup combinations that they're working through. They're, like I said, collecting data, figuring out what lineups work against what type of teams, trying to get those lineups to build chemistry with one another now that they're close to healthy. These are the ebbs and flows that kind of come with when you have a lot of talent. That comes with a lot of learning that has to take place to get the most out of all of that talent comprehensively and not just 75% of that, because in this WNBA with Emma Mieseman coming to New York and Minnesota being who they are, Vegas still creeping around, they're never a team to sleep on. You got to be on your P's and Q's. You need to get 100% of your talent. 75% is not going to get it done. So this is the learning part that I got done speaking to earlier.
Yeah, and, to his point, like, these same players were fantastic and part of the reason that the Mercury were able to beat the Liberty the first 2 times. So I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but I'll take 2-1 versus the New York Liberty all day long at this point in the season. If I'm honest with you guys, I saw a lot of people on Twitter today talking during this game about how disappointed they were with this Mercury loss. And I do understand being disappointed in this loss. But at the same time, the Mercury literally could not stay above 500 last season. Not one time were we on this show talking about how they're going to make a fantastic playoff run because they're primed and ready for it. No. If I recall, Steven had the Minnesota Lynx picked to sweep the the Phoenix Mercury last year in the first round of the playoffs. I think, if I'm correct. And so,
and I got scolded by many Mercury fans. Understandably
even me,
so.
I scolded him.
Understandably so.
I was mad. I like winning, and I was still like, this is tough. But this is a team that you can count on is in every game that they're playing. They're not going to show up to Connecticut and score 42 points like we saw the Phoenix Mercury do last season. I don't know. I just don't see the rainy day attitude that everybody. I don't understand the rainy day attitude that everybody has right now, because this team is 15-9, still not to 10 losses, and they're almost 30 games into the season. So I'm not crying wolf. I'm crying still thinking, literally today, Steven and I were talking about hosting the playoffs. Steven and I cannot be having that conversation if this Phoenix Mercury team is not playing as well as they have been playing.
Yep.
Well,
I also wanted to add, I know with the numbers we were talking about, I think we had points, turnovers, free throws. You can go ahead. You can throw it back up there. Yeah, I was trying to remember. Yeah, we had field goal percentage, rebounds, turnovers, and the 3-pointers. I want to look specifically at, we talked about the free throw discrepancy already, but specifically the offensive rebounds that they conceded. So they gave up, was it 8 offensive rebounds? New York got 21 points from second chance opportunities today. 21. So you look at the difference in the game in terms of the final score. 2.6 points per possession that they got an offensive rebound. You're not going to win many games if you're giving up that many offensive rebounds and they're in turn also scoring on so many of those. That's a near impossible mountain to climb, especially if you're talking about going up against a New York Liberty team that has Sabrina Ionescu playing at an MVP level like she was tonight.
Well, the other thing I want to point out here is that we just finished talking about how this is the first time the Mercury have been on a 3-game losing streak all season.
Mm-hmm.
The New York Liberty went on a 3-game losing streak before the All-Star break. Let's be honest here for a second. The New York Liberty was not playing the most beautiful, glorious basketball right before the All-Star break. So they had some corrections to make. They made them. And now look at them. They're, I'm not going to say slobber knockering like I would in a normal situation, but they, definitely wiped the floor a little bit with the Mercury today. So I don't think it's any reason to quite cry wolf. I think if anything, Kahleah Copper starting the game 4 for 5 made me feel extremely optimistic. Obviously, her percentage dropped quite a bit after that, but on the same token, I talked to you literally on Wednesday about her early game touches. And she scored the first, I want to say 6 points for the Phoenix Mercury. And then after that, again, did not miss until her 5th shot. And so I think, the recipe for success is right there. It's right on the cusp of things for them. And as Kahleah continues to come back from injury and just gets more and more comfortable and it gets in her rhythm, like we've talked about her being a rhythm player, this team is going to become unstoppable in no time.
Yeah, I just got done speaking with Satou. The rhythm of the game is going to be different because the team is closer to healthy than they have been all season long. In addition to having someone new like DeWanna Bonner that's added to the mix too. We talked about in the first quarter, we couldn't remember when it was that Ka took her first shot, but it didn't feel like she took much of any in the first quarter of that game. It didn't feel like she really had a rhythm going in terms of plays being called for her where she's getting the ball with intention. Fast forward to today's game, and look who's getting the first handful of shots.
Nate Tibbetts listened to the
you
show.
You better believe
confirmed.
that was a conversation that was had while they were on the plane flying out to New York, watching film. We can't be going a near full quarter without having a play call for Kahleah Copper.
Especially when she's on a minutes restriction.
Right.
Especially when she's on a minutes restriction.
Correct.
So you got to start her off in the first quarter.
Yep.
I wouldn't mind so much if it was the first 3 minutes of the second quarter and she didn't touch the ball. But first 3 minutes of the first quarter, I'm like, brother, Nate Tibbetts, don't make me do it to you, brother.
Yeah. And especially when you factor in all of the switching and all of the things that New York was doing in this game, which I haven't gotten the final numbers from today's game, but from the first game against New York to that second game in June, where Sammy went crazy, they switched significantly more of the actions that Phoenix was running. And you look at today's game, and it felt like they took what they did in that second game, and they put like a ×2 multiplier to that. So I'm curious to see the numbers once those do come out. I'll let y'all know whenever I get them, but they switched a lot more in today's game. And if teams are switching, that's taking away the movement and things like that make Sammy the effective player that she is, whether scoring or passing. That's where you need somebody that can just go, I don't need help, just space for me, and I'll go be my matchup one-on-one. And to that point, we saw Kahleah doing that in the first quarter.
I think we should do it different by the numbers on Monday for this game. I know you're going to pull some incredible statistics from this game, but the screening numbers got to look wild in this game, like comparatively to other games.
As far as volume?
Yeah. I don't know. Something about it, like, again.
I think Wednesday's game was probably less than today's game.
Really?
But I'll definitely let you know when I do see them, because it was a lot more standing around and watching, like we spoke to on Wednesday's game. I felt like they had more movement today. They just weren't able to get as many paint touches, which I should have asked about the keys to the game. But one of the 3 keys to the game was paint touches. The only way you're going to be the New York Liberty team, you have to shoot to the same level of them from deep, if not more, but you have to have a good process into that, and that starts with being able to get paint touches. And that's why I feel like I mentioned at the end of Wednesday's episode, I felt like Kahleah Copper was in for a really good game because she's a player that they might get her in movement to get touches, but she doesn't need help to get open. She can just go create for herself one-on-one, whether it's a switch or her original matchup. It just doesn't matter. And we saw that a little bit today. It was a little bit of creativity with them. I think one of the threes she made, she was kind of getting into a little bit of handoff scenarios, and they switched it, and she found a little pocket to pull up against the switch. She got another three-pointer that she made also. I think she got a flare screen. And I forgot who it was that passed it to her, but they got a timely pass. Alyssa set the screen for her, and she knocked down that three. And then the other one came off of her just kind of creating for herself, getting to the paint. That's the blend that you want from Kahleah. But you have to find ways, like I said, because the team is healthy now, to get that pocket, but also not take the rhythm away from Satou, keeps AT involved, keep the general flow of the game involved. So it just gets tough with where they're at right now because they have so much talent.
Well, and I just saw Kevin pull your keys, so I guess we should talk about that for just a quick second.
Yep.
Key one, set the tone with the defense.
I think that gets an extraordinary check mark because they did that, and they did that extremely well. It's after the first quarter. I guess I should, because they did that part well, maybe I should have put the second key to sustaining after you set the tone with your defense, because they didn't do that part too well. But they did the first key very well. They set the tone with their defense. New York didn't score through the first 5 minutes of the first quarter. They got I think the Mercury got 6 or 7 stops on the road to start the game. Number 2 is diversifying the usage of Alyssa Thomas. That part I felt like they were only okay with. I felt like they could have got more out of the things that we talked about in the film session you did on her and Sammy, and having AT screen in and getting into different variations of handoffs where Alyssa doesn't necessarily have the ball in her hands immediately. I feel like that creates a little bit more advantage. That's how they beat New York in that second game in particular, just kind of diversifying AT's usage outside of her just having the ball right away. And then the third key of the game was paint touches, and that's the one where, like you're speaking to, they didn't have the same type of movement that we're accustomed to watching them have. I feel like it was better than what it was against Atlanta, but it wasn't good enough to win against either of those two teams. So room for improvement for sure.
Well, I already said I'm not crying wolf. Are you crying wolf at this point in the season?
No. I mean, this game.
Don't even think that there are must-win games right now. So
no, but there better not be must-win games for a team that a handful of people that are paid to watch these games and know what's going on around the league, picking them to not be in the playoffs or barely be scrunching into the playoffs by the end of the season. So
Kevin's insulted by that.
Yeah, correct. So a team that's in, what are they? They're either in third or fourth place right now based on record.
They're still third, I'm pretty sure.
They're still third. So a team that's no worse than top 4 that was predicted by a lot of people to not even make the playoffs. I'm not trying to hear the gripes and whatnot about wins and losses right now. This team, if they weren't allowed to learn about themselves early in the season because of the lack of expectations that people put on them, they definitely earned the right to learn about themselves at this point in the season.
Storm's only half a game behind, but it's okay. It's okay. I believe.
I don't think a storm is brewing too much right now, but I don't want to speak too soon. We'll revisit that.
It looks like it's storming on the storm right now.
Yeah, it's a storm on the storm right now. But
Seattle is raining and crying.
Yeah. But we'll revisit that when the time comes. We got enough to focus on with the Mercury right now for sure.
For real. But with this loss tonight, Mercury moved to, they say, in third place, like I said, 15-9. I'm not crying wolf. And there is no reason to really do so. What are you looking for them to do on Sunday? Obviously, it's the Mystics. You're looking at a completely different type of opponent in the Mystics, and basically a ton of rookies and Brittany Sykes out there running the show.
All stars.
Yeah, as they should, all 3 of them. And they got what they deserved, period. And their jerseys were for sale, so they even more so got what they deserved.
That part too.
But what are you looking to change from this game to Sunday's game for the Mercury to come out with victory?
Rebounds. They were -4 on the rebounding margin against Atlanta. In tonight's game with the New York Liberty, they were, let me double check.
-4?
I think it was -5. -5 on the boards in today's game. This is a team that has to at least be neutral with their opponents, because if their opponents are getting up If not more shots on goal, if you combine the shots on goal with the free throws in tonight's game, because they got up 8 more attempts from the field than New York, but when you add New York's 22 free throw attempts to the general shots on goal, and you take the 13 that the Mercury had with their 77, they got outshot generally from the floor if you add the free throw. So they can't be conceding more shots on goal to their opponents. By that same measure, though, they did force 16 turnovers, but it felt like a lot of the turnovers that they forced came in that first quarter and that kind of halfway through the second quarter stretch, as I'm double checking that. New York had 2 turnovers in the first quarter, 4 in the second. So, okay, so they had a lot in the third quarter in particular. They had 5. It didn't feel like their defense had the sustained impact that it usually does. So rebounds naturally come in tandem with the defense because the defense has to hit a certain level. So before anything else, if they're playing off of stops like they usually do, to the extent that they usually do, I think the offense will kind of come back a little quicker.
Yeah, and, I think something that definitely made me optimistic about this game going into any games in the future is that the first quarter lull wasn't really the reason behind today's loss. I felt like if the Mercury started out a little better on Wednesday versus the Dream, they're winning that game. That was not the problem tonight, and I was kind of obsessed with that not being the problem because it feels like the other 8 games that the Mercury have lost this season have all been because of a slow first quarter start. So I think if they can consistently start the way they started today, then the Mercury has a recipe for winning right on the tip of their fingers.
I would say so too. They do have to clean up they got to clean up some of the timely turnovers. They only had 14 today. 14 is on the high side for them if we're looking at it on the entire season. I think this was their 9th or 8th game with 14 or more turnovers. So not many. And I think in those games, I think they're now 5-4 if I remember correctly when I was looking at it before we went live. But you don't want to be having too many and conceding that in addition to the fouls, in addition to the offensive rebounds. Like, these are compounding things on the margins that it just makes it hard to navigate a game with, especially if you're not knocking down your threes to the extent that you typically do. Which coming into today's game, they were second in 3-point makes, second in 3-point attempts, and 4th in 3-point percentage. So you want to be better with your game process, generally speaking. They found good pockets in this game, but you want to sustain it more than they did in tonight's game in ways in which they did prior to the All-Star break.
Yeah. And I think all the pieces are right there. With Lexi's return, obviously she is coming back from a crazy injury and she was in the place that it happened in. So I definitely have a lot of empathy for Lexi today. I don't even want to talk about really her play too much because at the end of the day, I feel like if I were her, I would have been absolutely terrified to be back on that court. So I can't necessarily say I am surprised about the performance from her in particular today, but Monique made up for any Lexi lacklusterness that there was on this Friday evening, I would say, especially on the defensive end. Monique wasn't any less than what she normally is, which coming back from the concussion, I feel like we can all celebrate that at least.
For sure. I will also say too, I asked Nate about this post game. I still don't know if I have the updated numbers as I'm double checking now. Okay, so New York switched 20% of the ball screen actions that the Mercury ran. I'll have to go to another tab to look at the handoff numbers, but 20%, that's a high number considering if you look at it on a league-wide stretch for this season, 20 would be top 3 in terms of switch rate. New York in their second game against the Mercury on June 27th switched 30% of the screening actions, and that's an astronomical number. That 30% number I'm looking at, though, the 3 teams that have switched the most against the Mercury this season, Golden State Valkyries, Minnesota Lynx, New York Liberty. There's a trend there. More teams are going to figure out whether they have the personnel for it or not is another question because you can't get away with the things that Minnesota and New York do defensively, and Golden State by the same measure. But if you see something working for someone else, you're going to at least try it. Until their process is more sharp, more snappy, they're going to kind of be succumb to some kind of inconsistent results over the course of games. But that's a great challenge, and that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to over this back half stretch of the regular season.
Well, I think, honestly, to your point, if teams are going to start defending Phoenix differently. Like, it is a read and react offense, so they are equipped to handle that.
And that sounds like, from what Nate was mentioning when I asked him about that in post-game, execution is the word that he used without getting into too fine of details, but it definitely feels like they left food on the table in terms of their game process, knowing what they knew coming in. He mentioned to me in post-game that they anticipated, because of the switching uptick that they saw in the second game against New York, that they would do that. And they even took it to another degree today in terms of matchups in addition to the switching. So, yeah, to your point, yes.
Last thing I want to talk about is the schedule. And actually, I think this is interesting because I saw a stat the other day, and I'm pretty sure the Mercury have the 4th easiest schedule remaining of the WNBA right now. But that does not take into account like the timing of the games. So back-to-backs or anything like that are not really measured. It's just based off of how many like times you have to play the top teams in the league. Mercury have already played now the Liberty 3 times, also the Lynx 3 times. Yep. They've played the Storm twice. They've played the Aces twice.
Atlanta only once, but they got
Atlanta
them 2 more
is the
times
remaining
in the next
one
2
that
weeks.
they have to take on for multiple games of the regular season. And I guess with Atlanta, I do think that Mercury are going to be able to figure out how to beat them. Wednesday's game didn't make me think that like Atlanta was just going to sweep the Mercury for the season. But is there anything in particular that you're looking for the Mercury to make big changes to finish out the remaining, 19 games now, 21 games, something like that?
Not necessarily changes for them. It's more so just execution and cleaning up and just obviously reintegrating the entire team.
Comfortability with what's already there.
Correct. Not just 9 of 13 or 10 of 13, but having a whole roster available and everything that comes with that in terms of building out lineups. Integrating Dawana into a full roster, full rotation, that's different as well. I think there are going to be some minute hits that take place. Some players, and I think if anything, we've learned that everything is competition based with this Phoenix Mercury team, and that goes back to the tone that Nate set last season. Take the comprehensive talent this roster has compared to last season. I think this roster has more talent. I think that's fair to say. It's going to be based off of your performance at this point. So you talk about Kitija Laksa. He mentioned post-game that the good thing about the W is that there are still significantly a lot of games to kind of regain your rhythm with. You won't be because of opportunity that you don't get another chance. So it's what you do with that that's ultimately going to be applied to what the rotation is in that final 2 weeks of the regular season going into the playoffs in September. So I think I would keep an eye on that part, what rotations and what the lineups are looking like, how players are playing that are on the cusp of being in that top 8 or 9. Because I imagine he goes with 8 or 9 players. And then the other big thing for me is Monique Okoro-Makani. She is this team's X factor for multiple reasons. And I feel like today was a game where, and I'm not putting too much on her because this is literally her first game coming back from a concussion. And I've never had one, so I can't speak to what it feels like coming back from one. And if there's any kind of lingering effects.
Great.
I can't imagine it is.
Ellie is in there singing Lady Gaga, and Monique Okoro-Makani's trying to hit mid-range jumpers.
Exactly. But to that point, though, because she's their X factor, just paying close attention to how different teams decide to guard her, because she's a player that has significant skill that punches way out of the role that she's playing for the Phoenix Mercury. I believe that Monique could be a top 3 option on a contending WNBA team. I think her skills suggest that. But she's playing specific roles for this team to make the team work. She doesn't need to be Alyssa Thomas because they have an Alyssa Thomas. She also doesn't need to be Kahleah Copper because they have a Kahleah Copper. Also can't be a Satou because there's a Satou. So being a team player, playing a specific role, when she is forced to kind of play out of that role because of the ways teams are defending them, I'm talking about switches. If teams are switching more and she's going to get paint touches because no different than Kahleah and Satou, she can just get past her matchup whenever she wants, and Alyssa for that matter. If she's getting paint touches off her own will and she's kicking it out to Dawana Bonner, who I talked about was 5 of 7 from the corners coming into today's game. Kahleah Copper's been shooting close to 40% from deep in the few games that she has played. And Satou hasn't been shooting the best, but on catch and shoots, she's been okay this season. So if she's kicking out to those players and it's not those 3 players having to create for themselves, it hits different, especially for a defense. So they need her to be to a certain level. Not putting much on her because she was in her first game back, but the ways that she stepped up in the first half and even in the third quarter a little bit, definitely you can kind of see their avenues to winning games.
I can see her having some real fun in Washington on Sunday.
Listen, like I mentioned going into the playoffs last year, she's not the exact same type of player that Natasha Cloud is, but no different than last season. Everybody's going to be paying attention to the big three.
Yep.
Last season, it was DT, obviously Kahleah, and BG. This season, it's Ka, Satou, and AT. All the attention is going to be on those three. She's in a similar role that Natasha Cloud was last season, where
so much fun.
would not be surprised if she's having a blast on the court come playoff time, because teams are going to say, you're going to get one-on-one and you're going to get soft coverages, and if you're going to knock down 7 of 14 across an entire series from the mid-range, and we lose because you're just knocking down shots and getting to the free throw line and to the rim, so be it. I think there's going to be that situation. Difference is because that's literally what Natasha Cloud did against Minnesota. I think she had 20 or 30 in both of those games.
I believe 32 in the second game.
Lost her absolute mind. Monique is certainly capable of doing exactly that. The difference is the team comprehensively is better this season generally, and especially on the defensive end, than that team was of last season. So it's going to hit different.
The last thing I want to talk about before we get out of here is I know a lot of people have been talking about DeWanna Bonner and the addition that she is to the team, and all true things, everybody. But I want to bring up a piece of this that I feel like no one's really talking about. And like, obviously her and AT have a lot of chemistry on the court together. They played together a long time in Connecticut. They won a lot of games together in Connecticut. But AT has herself talked about what a different team this is than she had in Connecticut. And what have the Phoenix Mercury done to help AT out? Surrounded her with shooters. And so, yes, while they do have a ton, oh my gosh, of on-court chemistry, is that okay? Did it break?
No, we good. That was just my little case.
Oh, whew, thank gosh. I thought it was your whole
Kevin.
laptop. I was like, brother,
I blame
no.
Kevin.
Yeah, blame him.
What?
Huffing and puffing and you.
3 little piggies over here, huh?
I'll huff and I'll puff. That's enough of that.
Oh man, that was tough.
But yes, you were cooking. Yes.
Yes. DeWanna Bonner and AT, their dynamic has just changed a lot on the court together as they move into Phoenix and both find themselves in this Nate Tibbetts system. And so I just want to I want everybody to give them time, because while I think it's looked great together, as Kahleah, makes her full return, as Satou comes and makes her full return in the time and minutes, like everybody's dynamic is going to change together, and that includes those two. We saw in their first 2 games, we saw 6 lob passes from AT to DeWanna Bonner, and we haven't seen that many of them since then, I think, in all their games combined. So I just think you guys all need to remember that there's context to all of these things, and as time progresses, all of these dynamics are going to improve. And you've seen it in real time happen with the big 3, but as, DeWanna Bonner makes her, cements her timing and position in the rotation, you're just going to see it more and more with everybody else.
Yeah, that's it. They just need time with the team being fully intact to build their chemistry back up. And there was something else I was going to say in my laptop case falling off, just threw me all the way off, because I was like, what is going on down here? But yes, this team is. I have no worries, Mr. Huff and Puff back there. I have
what
no
is
worries.
going on down there?
Is he okay?
No worries about this team and where they're headed. I think these lessons to learn, which is what I was going to get to before that happened. Patience. I think I preached that coming into the season.
You did.
And naturally, what do? Said, forget the patience. We're going to hit the ground running.
Yeah, we're going to make Erika think we're going to be undefeated and blah, 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 blah,
Correct.
have a blast.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so I think the patience part kind of got lost because they got out to such a hot start, and they were significantly ahead of schedule in terms of their win-loss record and kind of the expectation for the team. I think now this is a moment where I'm not going to say there's regression, but there's them kind of just finding a way to get back into that rhythm.
Well, and I think to your point, a lot of people did pick this team to not go to the playoffs. So and I'm not going to say that, the other teams' coaching staffs are as, stupid as some media members, but that said, you do scout certain teams certain ways based off of where they're picked to kind of finish. And, so if you are counting out the Phoenix Mercury at the beginning of the season and then suddenly they go on this crazy hot streak where no one really saw it coming, obviously that's going to look a lot different. How you're scouting them and how you're expecting to play them is going to look a lot different this late in the season.
I'll say, I think you're onto something. I'm going to tweak it a little bit though, because I don't believe that coaches are ever gonna
I was close.
not be game planning appropriately for Alyssa Thomas.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, I don't think these coaches are that stupid.
But to your point, it's not. I wouldn't say stupid. I would say it's just not knowing, because there's unknowns that come with Kathryn Westbeld. There's unknowns that come with Kitija Laksa. There's unknowns that come with Lexi Held, Monique Cole-McConaughey. Like, there's just unknowns that come with these players. And this is why I spoke to Monique being the X factor early in the season, because it was clear that she has a lot of talent that exceeds what her role is for this team. What do teams ultimately decide to do? Because early in the season, she was shooting 50% from three. Teams kind of kept leaving her open. Now they haven't been keeping her as open as she was early in the season, but there's been other things that have shifted. So there's just a lot of learning going on, like, across the entire league. Teams are still trying to figure out what to do with Kathryn Westbeld. And when she's knocking down her threes, the keep her open option just kills you at a certain point, because she knocks down 3 or 4 of them. So,
well, how many different starting lineups has the Phoenix Mercury had to go with, and how do you game plan for that? You know, when you don't even know who you're going to end up playing. So it's just been a lot of learning for everybody surrounding the Phoenix Mercury. So I'm still super optimistic. I think this is not only a fantastic playoffs team, but I think they're going to host in round one of the playoffs. I'm going to book it now. I think they have multiple all WNBA first team players on their team right now. Multiple second team as well, if we're talking seriously about this team. But I don't think my expectations have dropped at all. And through this 3-game losing streak, I think in that last game, I want to say it was versus the Valkyries right before the All-Star break. I could be totally wrong about that, so if I am, don't shoot me. But I wasn't really disappointed in it, because you're Satou sitting out with injury. Kahleah is doing what Kahleah's been doing. AT also was coming off of injury. Like, I just haven't felt frustrated until the second half of today's game. I had actually really not been frustrated, truthfully, by this Phoenix Mercury team too much this season. But when you do score 13 points in the third quarter, that is definitely something that makes your head start to hurt a little bit.
Last thing I'll just say is, when you have a team that's playing ahead of expectation in terms of the patience part that I preached early in the season, and then they get out the gates and they get out the gates like Sha'Carri Richardson, honestly. Yeah. I was expecting it to be like a slight jog, and they just turned into one of the fastest in the world off the rip.
Speaking of huffing and puffing.
What you do is you give yourself a cushion to work with. So you give yourself room for error. If you win games that you might not, quote unquote, you might necessarily aren't supposed to win early in the season, now you give yourself cushion. That's why you have to play the schedule the right way and get out to a hot start. Because you never know what's going to happen with injuries, which we've literally seen happen to this team. You never know what's going to happen with the logistics as far as the way the schedule is set up and how that's going to implicate for your team. You got crazy road trips and things like that. So they're still in a patience point for me. They'll be in a patience point until mid-August, probably at the earliest. And they've given themselves cushion to lose games like this, because they went and won a game against the Minnesota Lynx without having 2/3 of their big three.
And they won the first 2 against the Liberty.
And
so
they went and won
pressed?
2 games against the New York Liberty, one of which that was on the second night of a road back-to-back coming from Connecticut. You build yourself cushion because you did your work early. So this learning portion can come with some losses as long as they learn those lessons and they apply them soon.
Kevo, my guy, do you have our takeover graphic by any chance? In a gazillion years? That answer is probably not, but that's okay, because August 22nd, you can join Steven and myself at PHX Arena. We're going to be going to watch not the New York Liberty at all, not the New York Liberty. The Phoenix Mercury take on the Golden State Valkyries. I'm super excited. We had 2 takeovers last season. Steven flew in from Chicago for the first one. It was a dope time, okay? You get drink tickets, free food, you get to hang out with us, plus all the diehards. And I'm going to be honest with you, and I've said it in every show since the beginning of the season, but the Mercury really does have the best diehards in all of PHNX. You can really even ask Kevo, he has...
There's other people that are saying that too.
Yeah.
For sure. It's word is getting around the office, for sure. Y'all are some true ride or dies, ride or die hards.
Y'all are really the goats of the chat. Every time, whether it's a diehard Discord chat, this chat, the Twitter chatters, all of y'all really are the best in the business, but we only have a certain amount of tickets. So if you want to go, I'm telling you right now, you better get your tickets quickly, because, again, our diehards, they're diehard, and they're going to show up and show out for us. So be there, be square. You can wear some really cool Mercury gear, maybe some PHNX Mercury gear, and we can have a really fun time together. It's going to be a blast. I'm not even questioning if it's going to be fun, because I know for a freaking fact it's going to be fun. I'm bringing thunder sticks.
Whoop whoop.
How could it be unfun if I'm bringing Thunder Sticks? But then also, one other thing is you got to become a diehard because we are having is it spring training or fall?
It's
spring camp.
No, it's camp. Just camp.
Yeah.
It's just camp?
Training camp.
Okay, I thought it was fall camp. So
training camp.
I'm wrong because it's July.
For the Cardinals?
Yeah. Camp sale. $36 on the year. You can become a diehard. And you can be just like us. You can be like all these cool chatters. I know Andy Bryant is a diehard. Joel Pretty's a diehard. Christina Pretty, I saw her in the chat. Lindsay's even a diehard. She joined us, I think, less than a month ago. So we got new, fresh Mercury diehards. And you could be just like them for only $36 a year. You get a free t-shirt of your choosing out of the locker or a hat. I hear through the grapevine their PHNX hats are pretty cool. I don't really wear hats, but I'm sure they're good.
They are sweet.
And then you get a super cool membership card. I'm actually kind of jealous of the people with membership cards because I don't have one. And it don't seem right to me personally. But you get discounts on cool events, such as literally this one that I just finished talking about, the Die Hard Takeover. And then also, obviously, all the other cool events that we do. Like, I think there's pickleball events going on. I know Cardinals are doing a ton of cool events this year.
Yeah, pickleball event taking place tomorrow morning, actually.
10 a.m. at the Chicken and Pickle?
Word is I'll be pulling up, too.
I'm going to be honest with y'all. I will not be at the Chicken
Word
and
is
Pickle.
Kevo might be pulling up, too. Yes, I'm holding him accountable, putting him on the spot now. Oh, now all of a sudden you got to clear his throat.
I got some phlegm. I'll come back to you later.
Now he all sick, huh? Uh-huh.
But yeah, you can become a diehard just like everybody else in the chat. All you got to do is go to that first link in the description box below. Go phnx.com/diehard. I'd imagine also works because that, PHNX likes to make things super freaking easy for you. So go to those links, become a diehard, get your t-shirt, join the diehard Discord lounge where we have a ton of fun on a literal daily basis. You want to see me crashing out about fantasy basketball? That's literally the only place in Northwest America that you can do it. So join the diehards and what is so funny over there? Southwest North America?
Northwest America. I think it's the only place in America, but also we are in the Southwest. But that's neither here nor there.
Oh, it's okay. Like I said, guys, I'm knocking off some rust, okay? Me and Monica Kalani, give us a little just cut us some slack, okay? Throw Lexi Held in there too, okay? Nonetheless, though, thank you for joining us on this fine Friday evening that we didn't really plan in the first place. So surprise. Mm-hmm. Thank you for joining us. Please be sure to tap the subscribe button below, hit the like button. Follow Steven on Twitter at StevenPG3. Follow me at Erika Lee Day, and you can follow us both together at PHNX_Mercury, where we just crank out the best Mercury content and also Northwest America. Literally, you cannot go wrong. I'm not going to lie. We tweeted out a really good office meme for AT's MVP candidacy today. Mm-hmm. It's already doing good numbers, but you got to go tap in with that. So we're spreading the good gospel about the AT for MVP hashtag. So tap in with us over there, and we will see you guys on Monday.
We all silly like the mayor.